Um, Perfect. So hello, everyone. Welcome to the first NYU SciAm event this fall. We're very excited to have you. Before you guys get started, it's important we give you guys some basic background about our club, on who we are and some of the events that we have coming up. So simply put, we're the NYU Society for Industrial and Applied SciAm. We're a student-run chapter of that organization, and we established ourselves last November and have had our first series of events last spring with a special relativity through a linear algebra session and a math of the cell lecture. We definitely listened to your feedback, and from that plenty of people wanted to explore new areas of applied math like data science, AI, finance, and quantum computing, which are all huge growing areas, and they take math and they use it to revolutionize the world. So we developed an Instagram page, developed a website, reached out to many different people in the industry, and are excited to have you guys. Obviously, you guys found the website and the Instagram very well. Came here. I want to give a shout out to our webmaster, Ethan Philpott, for a moment for developing our website. And now me and my co-president just give you a little background about ourselves.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Tella, and I'm a co-president of NYU SciAm. I am also a co-founder of our chapter, and it's been my vision to create a large community of students passionate about math and STEM here at NYU, with the events such as the one that we're hosting this evening. So I'm myself a double major in math and French at the College of Arts and Science, and I hope to pursue doctoral studies in math one day. And I look forward to meeting all of you throughout the semester, so please do feel free to reach out to me at any point.
And also, I'm Ryan. I'm also a co-president of NYU. I'm currently a junior at NYU. I'm majoring in math, minoring in computer science. My experiences have been doing some research in algebraic geometry, which was a very interesting experience with my professor from another university, and then working as a consultant at Ernst & Young as an intern. I'm currently interested in working in the financial services industry, so I'm very excited for Simon's talk. And lastly, before we start this main event about options pricing, I would love to remind you guys of some of our future events. So actually, we probably skipped a few slides. Let's go ahead. Okay, so we've got Dr. Andrea Jones-Roy, who's the professor and director of undergraduate studies at the NYU Center for Data Science, is going to be here Wednesday, September 22nd. Alongside being a data scientist and a research consultant for many Fortune 500 companies and startups, she's also a comedian and circus performer and has performed on an international circuit. We also have a member from the IBM quantum computing team who's going to be here talking about, of all subjects, quantum computing. And he'll be joining us on Wednesday, September 29th. So keep those dates in mind. And we look forward to having Dr. Ed Gerber, and sometime, actually, I think we have the date in October, from the Courant Center for Atmosphere and Ocean Science. He's going to be teaching about the math and physics behind climate science or climate change, as well as Dr. Naftali Cohen, who's currently an adjunct professor at Tandon at NYU and is the VP at JP Morgan AI Research. He'll be talking about opportunities in academics and industry after graduation.
And last but not least, we are so grateful today to have Simon Sun here with us. Simon is a consultant at Société Générale and will be presenting a series of 6 seminars. It's going to be every other Thursday starting this evening. And he is a graduate of Courant's Mathematics and Finance Master's Program, and he has worked as a quantitative analyst at XLP and Omni Risk Management. And we are so excited to kick off our semester with Simon Sun. So Simon, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So thanks for inviting me, and I'm gonna be the speaker tonight, and I'm gonna host about, I think it's 6 seminars throughout the semester. It's bi-weekly, and the topic is gonna be on quantitative finance, on option pricing mostly. And then also maybe we can talk a little bit about the buy-side stuff, but it's not my strength, it's not my professionality because I work in the bank. And just I will explain like in a very second that like the difference between buy-side and sell-side and all this kind of stuff, and you will get a better understanding why I just say that. So this is gonna be the first and the introduction seminar. So first about myself. My name is Simon Sun, and then I graduated from NYU from a bachelor's degree in May 2019. And I also got my master's degree from Koran Institute for Mathematics in Finance in last December. So I just graduated about a year ago. And then after I graduated, I started working for SocGen. And then you can see my email address here. It's simply just simon.sun@nyu.edu. Thanks NYU, they still allow me to use this email account. So feel free to email me if you have any question about quantitative finance, about your professional future, about mathematics, about NYU, or about anything.
Oh,
So,
Simon, could you mind putting on the subtitles for a moment because I'm blocking the screen?
the what?
You press turn on the screen. I think it would. Yeah, that would clear up. Thanks. Just press got it. I think. Just press got it on the right. Thanks.
Good. Okay, so can you see the PDF right now, or okay, never mind. I will just stick with the PowerPoint.
We can see about myself at the moment.
Okay, so about this course, about this not a course, but this series of seminars. One thing about this topic is it's very quantitative as its name. And then it takes lots of the mathematical skills, and it has lots of like the partial differential equation, numerical analysis, those kind of things are involved. So in this case, it's very hard to talk about this topic in a less quantitative way, because the purpose of these seminars is to open to everyone, open to freshmen, sophomores, and also some PhD students. If they join, they can also like benefit something from the seminars. So like when I'm trying to design this curriculum of these seminars, I'm trying to put it less quantitatively or less mathematical equation involved. And so everyone will be able to understand. So we want to focus on the intuition. And then the first few seminars we will talk about, for example, today I'm gonna do some introduction about the quantitative finance industry. And then I'm gonna talk to introduce what is the future to everyone. And then next seminar, we talk about options, and then option pricing. And then we talk about exotic options and those kind of very interesting stuff, also which is the stuff I am most interested in. And the last thing about these seminars and myself is, because I just graduated last year, so I don't think I'm better than anyone. So like through this opportunity, I also want to review the stuff I learned when I was a master's student. And through the teaching, I can review and learn stuff. So I hope like the whole environment of this is actually like a seminar instead of like a lecture, which means I hope if you have questions, please to type in the chat. So I will try myself to also focus on the chat so I can see if anyone is like asking questions, or please feel free like just to speak out and then just cut me. Okay, let's jump to the topic. Quantitative finance. So it's called quantitative finance. The keyword is quantitative. It means like everything involves quantitative work is quantitative finance. For example, if you try to solve a partial differential equation, if you want to do some numerical analysis, machine learning, anything involves big data, anything involves mathematical equation, it technically belongs to a quant work. And then it's in the financial industry, so it's quantitative finance. So it's like a very broad picture. And then in this industry, we have two parts. The first one is the buy side, and the second one is the sell side. And just as its name, the buy side, they buy service. And then the sell side, they sell service. And the buy side is normally hedge funds, prop tradings. And then the sell side is mostly banks, investment banks. And also I want to mention Bloomberg because it's always my favorite company. And then probably some of you know Bloomberg. It's not only the media company, they also have the terminal. They provide lots of the financial data to banks and to funds. And this kind of the service, they provide the financial data. And then some pricing on the data, some analysis on the data, but you see like the idea, like it's providing service. And then first thing about the buy-side quant, their responsibility is researching signals to trade. That's the main responsibility for them. It could be some high frequency trading, low latency trading, day trade, anything. Like their purpose is just one thing, to make money for the fund through trading. And then they apply some quantitative work and then they find a way. And that's it. That's the buy-side quant. And it's pretty simple and pretty easy to understand. But for the sell-side quant, it's a little bit more harder to understand probably if you first time touch this industry. The sell side is probably the companies are larger because banks, they're normally very huge. And in the bank, there is a front office and there's back office. The front office quants, or we call them the desk quants, what they do is pricing. They support daily trading activities and they sit next to the traders. So traders and quant, they sit together. Trader asks the quant, hey, I want a price for this trade. And the quant just calculate it through Python, through manual work if possible, anything, give the number to the trader and trader, they can trade. So that's like the idea of desk quant. They sit next to the trader. And there's also the back office quant. They mostly like do risk quant. What they do is model validation, counterparty risk, market risk, those kind of things. And then the focus of this whole series of seminars, we are going to focus on the front office quant. So this is also the team I work for. So I'm working at a front office quant team at SocGen, but because this is my first year at SocGen, my work is a little bit on the back office, a little bit like on the back side of the front desk. So I'm not doing like the most fancy pricing work. That's like my manager, like his job. But I'm like more like helping him or supporting him like after he does lots of the fancy work. Okay, so this is the introduction about the quantitative finance industry. And then the first thing I want to introduce to everyone is the law of one price. So in the quantitative finance industry, there is only one law that is called the law of one price. Besides this, all other stuff is all like assumptions, models, but this is the only thing that we can call a law. So let's imagine a scenario. Our friend Ryan, he wants to sell a pencil at $1. And myself, I want to buy a pencil at $1.2. But the trick here is we do not know each other. At this moment, there's a third person called Thomas. He knows both of us. And what Thomas will do after he realized that Ryan wants to sell and I want to purchase is Thomas can buy the pencil at $1 from Ryan and sell it directly to me for $1.2. And at this moment, Thomas, he can make this 20% of the difference. He can make money from this trade. So like thinking this scenario, like what Thomas does here is what we call arbitrage. So arbitrage is like making profit without taking any risk. Because Thomas knows me and Thomas knows Ryan, he can do such simple transaction without taking any risk. It's free money for him. And in this scenario, if we talk a little bit like more finance, if we talk more like in the finance words, we have market maker or liquidity provider here. That's the Ryan. He provides, so you see like the idea, he provides the liquidity because Ryan and me, we don't know each other. So he provides the liquidity for this transaction. And that's also like the work that banks are doing. They provide the liquidity for the whole financial industry. And another key concept happens here is the risk, just as I mentioned, is the risk-free arbitrage. There is a risk-free arbitrage here because just as we discussed, it's risk-free because Thomas, he doesn't lose anything while doing this transaction. And then he does make money, 20 cents from this transaction. And then another idea of such example, the money he makes is also called the bid-ask spread if you work in the bank or if you work in the prop trading firm. So this is one scenario that I want to mention. Another scenario is like the opposite. Ryan, he wants to sell a pencil at $1.2, and I want to purchase a pencil at $1, and we do not know each other. Say, Thomas knows both of us. But because of the price difference here, Ryan wants to sell at a higher price and I want to buy at a lower price. Even if Thomas knows both of us, in this case, the transaction will not happen because of the price. Okay? So you see, like so if we like it's a pencil and let's assume it's an identical pencil. And we saw two scenarios that the pencil is worth different prices. If the buy price is larger than the sell price, there will be someone who's able to arbitrage and make this, and just someone's going to arbitrage and to benefit from this difference. Another example is buy is smaller than sell. In this case, there's not going to be any market movement happen. In both two scenarios, as the person who wants to buy or wants to sell the pencil, I'm probably not happy with this, because if the transaction happened, someone arbitraged me. So in other words, I am supposed to be able to do a better price, or where I can buy the pencil at a lower price, or I can sell the pencil at a higher price if I know the other party. For the second scenario, I'm also not happy because I'm not able to buy the pencil or sell the pencil. So like after seeing these two scenarios, the result in the financial market is law of one price. Because if we are no more discussing about the pencil, if we talk about the stocks, think in this way: if the stocks it worth two different prices, someone will notice the difference and arbitrage and benefit from the price difference. And then this price difference will take place like in 1 second or less than 1 second. And then us, normal trader, we will not be able to notice the price difference. Okay, so like what we see as like normal traders or like traders in the bank is like the price is probably just the same. Only those like very high frequency traders who trade and try to benefit from the price difference, they will notice the different price, but it's another story. But like from normal people's eyes, the price should be the same, because if the price is different, someone will arbitrage and then just erase the price difference. And this is like the idea of the law of one price I want to introduce for everyone first. And just I mentioned before, the direct result of law of one price is arbitrage free. So nobody will be able to arbitrage from the price. Okay, just let me check the chat. Yes, I will be able to send the PDF and PowerPoint through PowerPoint.
Yeah, we can have it uploaded to the website, and also, yeah, we'll make sure all the information is there. How long is it? It should be about an hour. We may be running it slightly over because of the time for the first meeting, but won't be.
Okay, so after introducing the law of one price, the second concept I want to introduce is risk-free rate. The name of the risk-free rate is pretty straightforward, self-explanatory. It's risk-free. So still, like, let's imagine a scenario, the US Treasury, we all believe in US Treasury, and the US Treasury bond will never default in the next 50 years. It's probably a very safe way to assume, hopefully. And then we decide to purchase the US Treasury bond that matures in 10 years. In the next 10 years, we do receive some coupon payments from the Treasury bond. The coupon payment is probably very small, maybe let's say 1% every year. But we are able to receive 1% every year without taking any risk because US Treasury bond is probably not going to default because US government is pretty reliable. And in this case, such risk investment is risk-free. And this 1%, the money we receive each year is the risk-free rate we want to consider. So the reason I want to introduce the risk-free rate here is if we come back to the quantitative investment or financial industry, if an investment cannot beat the risk-free rate, we probably would never do that investment. So let's say if there is an investment, we can probably receive like 0.5% each year, and it takes some risk. Why we bother invest in that? Because we can simply invest in the bond, US Treasury bond. It doesn't take any risk and it gives a high return. So like this is a very important concept, like while for funds like doing pricing the risk-free rate, because like the whole idea of pricing, at least the price should provide the investors opportunity to beat the risk-free rate. Okay, then this is gonna be the key part of the, today's seminar. I'm gonna talk about the forward contract. So the forward contract or the future contract, these are like very, let's say, it's probably a very confusing name, like forward and future, they mean different things. Please keep in mind they're different. So if like you go to an interview and the other asks you what is the difference between forward and future, and you say, okay, Simon said they're the same. No, I didn't say that, please. So they are different. So there are differences, but the differences we are not going to discuss in detail today, but just don't tell anybody like forward and future, they're the same. So a forward contract on Microsoft stock that mature in 1 year is like following. So today I spent FUSD to buy the contract. 1 year later, I received 1 share of the Microsoft stock, which was as US dollars. So you see, like the idea is like there's an obligation. So after entering the contract, there's an obligation saying, after I buy the contract, you, the other counterparty, you are gonna give me the stock after a predetermined time, for example, a year. And then the cash, if the concept is a little bit confusing here, we can look at the cash flow. It might be the most straightforward way like to look at this table. So today, the event is I purchased the forward contract. In this case, because I purchased the contract, so I pay the money to you. So my cash flow is minus F. And at the maturity date, I received the stock. And as I mentioned, the stock was worth S. So my cash flow is positive S. And the net PNL for me is S minus F because I receive S and I pay F on the first day. Okay, so it's like pretty straightforward. Like this is the simplest financial derivative. And then the next question comes to our mind is like, what price should this future contract or forward contract be? So we just introduced the idea of the law of one price, and that's like the key idea we are gonna focus here. So first, we assume the stock price is as today. And then like very hugely like here, the assumption I put is zero interest rate is considered here because the interest rate plays a significant part of, while doing pricing here. We assume a simple scenario that F is larger than S. In this case, we can develop a trading strategy. Let's say if today I sell a forward contract, because I sell the contract, I gain the money. So I gain F US dollars. Okay, but keep in mind, because I sell the contract, when the contract matures, I do have the obligation to deliver the stock to the other party. Okay, so the first part, I sell the forward contract and I do gain like FUSD. The second part I do today is I buy the stock. So if I buy the stock, I pay S dollars. And the cash flow for today is F minus S. And simple is greater than 0 because of the assumption like we did at the very beginning. At the maturity date, like come back here, the contract here, because I sell the contract, so which means at the maturity, I do have the obligation to close the forward contract. In other words, I need to give the stock to the other counterparty, to the other party. But fortunately, because on the first day, I did buy a stock, right? So I can directly give this stock to the person. And then I can close the forward contract and close the stock exposure at the same time. And at the maturity date, the cash flow for me is 0 because I don't pay any cash. I didn't buy anything. I didn't sell anything. I just give the stock to the other person to close my forward contract. And if we look at these two cash flows together, the first day, the cash flow is positive, strictly positive. The second day, the cash flow is 0. So you see, like if we say that the F is greater than S, I can use this strategy to do an arbitrage, right? So I can simply, like through this strategy, I can make free money from trading. And based on the law of one price, such scenario will never happen. Because if someone is willing to buy the contract at F dollars and the F is larger than S, the person who's willing to buy this contract is definitely stupid. I'm definitely happy to do this, but just nobody is this stupid. Like they want to be arbitraged by others and to say, okay, you're my friend, so I'm going to give you opportunity to make free money. This is not going to be the case in the financial industry. So this scenario, it will never happen because when F is greater than S, someone will be able to arbitrage and do this strategy. And the conclusion we make here, F has to be smaller or equal to S. And then we look on the second scenario, if we say F is smaller than S. In this case, another strategy we can develop, and then we can arbitrage to make some free money. So today, I buy a forward contract. So if I buy the forward contract, just as what we did at the very beginning when I introduced a forward contract, I spend FUS dollars. And then the second bullet point, like here's a little bit trick happens here. I'm gonna borrow a share of the stock from the bank and sell the stock. Okay, so banks, they not only they lend money, they also lend stocks and other securities. So I can go to the bank and say, okay, I want a share of stock and I'm going to give it to you. I'm gonna to give it back to you maybe a year later. So in this case, I got a stock, and at this moment, when I got the stock, I sell it. So I get S dollars. But still, like keep in mind, after a year, I need to give this stock back to the bank. Okay, so the net cash flow here is S minus F. It's still like greater than 0, but we are owning a share of stock to the bank. But fortunately, at the maturity, we will receive a share of the stock because we purchased the forward contract. The forward contract at the maturity date, the other party, they deliver a share of the stock to us. So we can use the share of the stock that we receive from the forward contract at the maturity, and we can give this directly to the bank to close everything, to close the short selling. The net cash flow on maturity is, again, is 0. But the first day is strictly positive. So you see, like in this scenario, again, through this strategy, another arbitrage takes place. And then such like very happy scenario, it never happens on the financial market. because if I'm looking for someone who wants to sell a forward contract smaller than S, then there must be someone who is very, very stupid. And then he just gave me free money, basically saying. So like the same logic applies here. We conclude that F has to be greater or equal to S in this scenario. So this is like an idea like proof by contradiction. In the first scenario, we conclude F is smaller or equal than S. And the second conclusion, we conclude F is greater or equal to S. So we make the final conclusion, the price of the forward contract has to be the same as the stock price of today. But in this scenario, just as the assumption I did at the very beginning is zero interest rate. If we consider interest rate into the conversation, it's another equation. It's this equation. F is equal to S times e to the power of R times t. So it's like basically like discounting the S. Or like the intuition here is, or the intuition here is, instead of buying the forward, so we have to make sure like the investment we spend on buying a forward contract, it will at least covers the covers. So we have two options. First, we can do a forward contract investment. Second, we can put the money in the bank and we can make interest from it. So the reason like this equation there is an R here is to guarantee that the expectation of the investment is at least the money we can make from put our money in the bank. Now, of course, like here, we didn't consider the transaction cost. Just as I mentioned here, like we did some, we borrow a share of stock from the bank. Such short selling stuff, it's probably like takes money because bank don't just give you the free stock and then they take the risk, give you the stock and you do whatever you want and they take the risk. It's not gonna happen. So the banks, they do get some transactions, make some money from lending you the stock. And then also like when we are trading the forward contracts, there's probably transaction cost. So the second assumption we have here is we don't consider the transaction cost. But if in this happy scenario, no transaction cost and enough market liquidity, and then you see like as we discussed, like basing on the idea of law of one price or the arbitrage free, we have to put the forward price equal to the stock price today if there is zero interest rate considered. Okay, let me check the chat.
I just gave some basic details about some of these topics, at least from my own small knowledge.
Yes, that's right.
And then Itamar says, can you talk a little bit more? Why can we ignore volatility when setting? Yeah, those two questions will come back in the end. Can you talk a little bit more about the general equilibrium model here?
I'm not very sure about like what's the general equilibrium model you ask here. Let me just do a quick search.
Are you talking about the efficient market hypothesis or stuff related to? I may need you to write a little bit more detail. If you can come up with a specific name or link or something to it, I can get back to you with some information and get time to talk about it. And then while you're at it, I'll look that up. Can you answer the second question? Like,
yes. Why can we ignore volatility when setting these bonds? This is a very good question. So first, volatility will play a very crucial part, like in the next seminar when we are discussing about options. But volatility has nothing to do with the price of a forward contract. So how can we explain this? Or maybe like the intuition, maybe we can put it this way is when you are trying to trade a forward contract, you are looking for the expectation, but the volatility doesn't impact the expectation of the forward contract. This might be one of the intuition I can come to my mind. And then like through this whole like through those whole like proofs of why like f is equal to s, it's like saying like the key idea is like we want to provide a arbitrage-free environment. And then the arbitrage, it doesn't, so you can see like from these scenarios I introduced here, there's no reason like we need to consider the volatility at this moment because it's pretty simple. Like volatility is just like a more complicated case. Yeah, I don't know if this answered the question.
Just come back and then we can always answer. We can talk about it more after if you want. If you want to stay for a moment, we can talk. I think I have some idea, but we'll come back to that in a moment.
Okay, and then lastly, the financial derivatives. Like the example like we just had is on the forward contract, and the forward contract is probably like one of the simplest example that we have for a financial derivatives. So the financial derivatives, its definition is first, we are not holding the securities directly. Excuse me. Second, although we don't hold the securities, we do have exposure to the securities. For example, like the previous example of the forwards, we are not owning the Microsoft stock directly, but after we purchase the future contract, we do have exposure to the stock price of Microsoft. If the Microsoft goes up, we are probably making more. We are probably gonna make money at the maturity date. If the stock price goes down, we probably will lose money at the maturity date. And that's the idea of the financial derivatives. And then in the future, we will talk more about the options, exotic options, and those like more interesting things. Those more interesting derivatives. And these derivatives, there will be like just as the question asked, there will be volatility involved. And yes, I think this is all I got for today's seminar. And I think I thought it's lots of to talk today, but turns out it's way faster than I thought. I think for the next seminars, I should like put more materials so we can spend more time on this stuff. Any questions, anyone?
Is it possible if you could go through, actually, do you mind going back in the slides for a moment? I just want to see these for 1 sec. Back. I'm trying to think if there's another topic we can talk about for a moment, which you probably think about. 1 sec. What kind of... Actually, we got a question in the chat related to something. Let me see. I'm curious about what kind of exposures derivatives get when people do not hold securities directly.
So using the example of the forward contract here, so like when you enter the forward contract, or when you spend $F to purchase the contract, first thing we agree is I didn't buy the Microsoft stock. And then, because we know like on the maturity date, I'm gonna receive 1 share of the stock. So which means if the stock price goes up like before the maturity, I'm probably gonna be very happy on this case. And then this is like the idea of the exposure like I got on the stocks. So you see like I'm not holding a Microsoft stock, but if the Microsoft stock goes up, I'm gonna be happy. So like this is what I mean by like exposure like to the underlying stocks.
I think we have another interesting question, which actually I think I've heard about this a few times. That yeah, most of the you're talking about the low fund price is the idea of no arbitrage, that there's no like free lunch in the market, and that in reality that the markets are not perfect, not perfectly efficient. How much of the time is spent in the real world dealing with arbitrage? Is that actually something that
Okay, so this is a very very good question. So it gets more philosophical. So the answer I have in mind right now is so banks. So I forgot like where I read this, but I read like the sentence is saying banks they are assuming the price they see are correct. So because the banks, they want to provide a price to the hedge funds. So they're assuming like the prices are good. But on the other hand, the hedge funds, they're assuming the prices are always wrong because only the price is wrong at this moment. And then when the price goes back to correct, hedge fund is like making this bet on this. They are making the bet the price is wrong today, but it will be correct maybe tomorrow. And then if I assume the good price is higher than it's right now, I'm gonna buy the stock. So like I don't know if this answers the question. So yes, like lots of the stuff is like assuming on the arbitrage free. And probably like arbitrage free is about pricing. And just as I mentioned at the very beginning, pricing is what the banks are doing. So like the banks, they're in this like very theoretical world on the arbitrage free, and they want to provide a theoretical view to their clients. But on the other hand, the hedge funds, they are probably on the more practical side. They want to arbitrage, they want to try their best to seek for opportunities to arbitrage them to make money. So like this, so I think the answer is more like the views from the buy side or the sell side perspective.
I mean, I've also hold on one second, we'll go over that one second. I've also heard that from what I know one person who works at I think it depends on what type of hedge fund you're also talking about. I think
Yes.
a lot of quant hedge funds follow a different philosophy from what I've
Yes,
heard from speaking.
definitely.
That they definitely believe that there is some way through, I don't know, through data science, through trying to use different mathematical models, that they could find some type of underpriced or overpriced instrument and then make money.
Well, just as you mentioned, like overpriced. So it's like so the price is wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, so they try to take advantage of that.
Yes. Yes.
How successful they are is another question, and definitely I think that generally I think I've seen generally there aren't, people don't make an enormous price. I'm not saying always, there have been some specific I think it's been observed that goes away after a while. Have certain individuals been able to make tons of money off of short-term? Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think it depends a lot on, I mean, I think different people have different answers depending on your philosophy or how you run your company.
Another question about difference between financial mathematics and financial engineering. The simple answer I want to give is there's no difference. But lots of people like are discussing on the internet or like the way like they normally tell people is the financial mathematics is probably focusing more on the mathematics, and then financial engineering is probably focusing more like on the practical side. That might be the truth 10 years ago, 20 years ago. To be honest, I'm seeing very small difference. But it's true, like the program I graduated from is under the Courant Institute. So it's mathematics in finance. And then because it is Courant, some of our courses is very hard, mathematically speaking. For example, like the stochastic calculus course. So I think because the key idea is like the financial mathematics is normally under the math department, and the financial engineering is under the engineering department. So like who teach the course is normally different, is probably different. It's probably like engineer or the mathematician who are teaching the course, and those probably will make some difference. But if you want to apply for some master's program, it's the same.
I definitely would look into the coursework as well. I think that's very important. So I look because probably some of those have more are a lot more theoretical based for pricing versus, although they probably intersected a decent amount from what I think I've heard from talking to them. And then also another person said they're a math major and have really considered a career in finance. They're just getting interested. Are there any courses at NYU or any resources you would recommend for someone new trying to break into the field? What would you have to say to them about that?
So at NYU, I know there's a course like each semester called Mathematics in Finance. I think that's open for students after they finish the probability and maybe analysis. I'm not very sure, but there is a course for undergrad, and the program I graduated from, those master's degrees course, they are also open to undergrads, but you have to apply to get enrolled into these courses, and definitely you need to finish. You definitely need to finish probability and real analysis and have some coding experience. So those are courses you might be able to consider in the future. And for other resources, what I can come to my mind is Investopedia is always a good link to read stuff. So I do remember like in my sophomore years or junior years, when I have when I see the lecture is so boring, I just open my laptop and just search random stuff on Investopedia. It's just a fascinating way to like study stuff, like very fast food studying way.
I mean, yeah, I know from the math major. I mean, if anyone else has, feel free to ask any more questions. We're going to be here for a bit more. Just obviously, if anyone wants to ask anything to Simon, it could be about his career, about finance, about being anything in math, anything for SIAM, it could be anything. But yeah, how much pure math do financial mathematics students typically take? You want to try that one? I think those.
What's the depending on the definition of pure math, to be honest. For example, like from my philosophy, real analysis and abstract algebra, those are probably, well, real analysis is probably not pure math, but it's applied math. But like pure math, very, very, very limited. But applied math, a lot.
I think you definitely need a decent background in calculus and linear algebra. You probably need some knowledge,
especially probability.
Probability theory is very important. Analysis is important, especially for if you're taking more complex models. For example, we're going to go over in the next coming lectures about options pricing. The Black-Scholes equation is essentially a way to price what an options contract is worth, and it's one of many models. But in order to be able to solve that thing, you need to know probability, you need to know analysis in order to understand this thing called stochastic processes where you solve that. We're not going to get into all of that because it's very technical and would probably take way more than an hour to get everyone on the same page. But yeah, those are definitely, to get more theoretical, you definitely need that. You definitely need some coding experience. I think is definitely very complementary. I don't think you need it. You could probably pick it up decently well. One other, I'm thinking abstract algebra is not exactly relevant to financial mathematics off the top of my head. I'm trying to think any statistics course is probably very helpful.
Did you say linear algebra?
Linear algebra, yeah. I thought linear algebra, numerical methods is probably
both of them are pretty important. So like the linear algebra, well, so like the example that come into my mind is the covariance matrix. So when you are like, so like for the calculation of the covariance or those kind of stuff, like we all use matrix, and it's a way faster way to do the calculation. And then also like if you want to do some big data analysis, if you want to do linear regression or regressions on machine learning, the key idea is like to use matrix manipulation to make the whole calculation more efficient. So yes, linear algebra is very important.
Yeah. Any advice for current undergrad students interested in the finance industry to get their first internship?
Well, the only advice I can give you is submit as much as resume as possible, and then reach out to as much as people as possible. If you are Asian and if you are male, it's pretty tough, to be honest, in New York, like to get a job. But try your best and then submit as much as possible, and then you will eventually get something. So like submitting like hundreds of resumes, it's like very common.
Also make sure to get strong at I actually have a book related to quant finance, which I got. I probably can give a PDF or a link to it. Very helpful towards understanding probability theory, which is very useful. Understanding a lot of different questions related to like just a bunch of different brain teasers that a lot of different, if you're trying to work at a hedge fund, that it depends on what you want to do in the finance industry also. Do you have any specific interest? I think it would probably be easier.
And about the forward contract, there's one thing I forgot to mention. So like in this example, what I put is the Microsoft stock. So the underlying is equity, it's stock. There are other cases we can have a forward contract maybe on oil, or we can have forward contract on other metals. So in this case, the pricing of the contract is different. So this pricing formula, like this whole logic, only applies to equity or FX, but not for commodity. So like putting this way, like when we are doing this whole scenario, we are assuming like at the maturity, we receive the stock. But if we are talking about the commodity, if it's oil, then we are going to receive the oil. Like we are going to receive like the real oil. Like you have no place to put the oil, and they have no idea that you have no idea like how you can receive the oil, like through truck or through airplane or what. So like you see, like if it's a forward contract on commodity, like the pricing is different. So this what I talked is only applied to equity and also FX, but not for commodity.
Oh yeah, that's good to know. Also, is it possible you can speak on like how did you end up working at Society Generale? How did you what was the obviously you did a master's in finance at NYU. And how did you get recruited into the very competitive industry of quant finance?
Well, just as I mentioned, I submitted as much as resume as possible, and then the process wasn't easy because I got my job before the COVID vaccine. And then the job market was very, very bad at that time. I do remember like when I was applying for internship, there is a fund, they really like me. They say they like me, or maybe they not, they just say they like me. They told me they like me, and then they say, but because of the COVID, we are gonna to postpone the recruiting process. So the whole process for me, it wasn't smooth. And then I think I was pretty lucky to get this job. And then, yeah, the only suggestion I can give to everyone is do reach out to different people. Maybe try to cold email on LinkedIn, try to connect with people through your friends, through some other friends introduction, reach out. that's first thing. Second thing is submit as much resume as possible. So I think those is the only thing like you can control. And then for interviews, do study for the interview, and then study for the interview as before the interview, there are like some interview practice books for content finance. Do practice on these books. That's one thing. Second, after the interview, do like study the questions that you failed to answer like during the interview. Because like after take several interviews, it might came out like same question will happen again. It's common, even if the question is not identical, the mind process might be very similar. So yeah.
Oh, Simon, also someone wanted to see if they can get your email or potentially your LinkedIn. Would that be possible if people could add you on LinkedIn?
Yes, feel free to do that.
Can I put that in the chat? You feel comfortable with that?
I think it's just my LinkedIn. You can just search my name.
I'll put your LinkedIn. Just if people want to reach out potentially. Let me put
and then my email is it will be on the PowerPoint or on the what is called the PDF.
And also, what are some of the things that we're looking for? Obviously, this was a little introduction just to get people used to law of one price, some ideas of derivatives. So going forward, we're going into options, what options are, different strategies related to options, different pricing models. Is that what the direction is going for the next few seminars?
So what's the question?
So what is the direction that we're heading in, just to give people like a little bit of a taste of what we're going into for the next
so most importantly, it's gonna be the next few seminars are gonna be on options. And then next will be like on the vanilla option, which is like the simplest options. And then we can talk more about the exotic options, especially like the structured product, how we use options to trade different stuff. For example, like using vanilla option, we can use it to trade volatility. And use vanilla option, we can create different spread. And the cool part about this is it doesn't involve any fancy mathematics inside. It's just like drawing. So you will see like how like you combine two lines together and you make the third combined line, and then it's like the idea of the structured product.
So you can create different payoffs based on different combinations of buying and selling.
And then it's very cool. And then like based on different structured product, you can do different trading strategies to trade the volatility, to bet on some certain movement of the underlying, to use to use the options to hedge the tail risk. Those offensive stuff, you can all like after understand the structured product, you will be able like to design your own option pairs or own structured product for different purposes. So that's probably the third seminars. And the most technical part will be on like American or the nonlinear option pricing. That's probably a very, very tough subject, but I want to try my best like to explain like the idea inside through some like coding examples. So it's using like Monte Carlo to price, and then I'm imagining like through some coding examples, it will be more like visualized. So everyone, although even if you don't know how to code, you will be able to understand the intuition, like how those extremely exotic options, how they are priced. I hope like at least everyone can understand the intuition. Yes.
I think we're gonna stay around for a little bit longer. We appreciate you guys definitely coming out here. I'm going to actually in a moment I just have the name of the book that I had, which may be interesting. I'm not sure if Simon's heard of Practical Guide to Quantitative Finance Interviews, which has a lot of topics related to like some calculus stuff, probability theory, brain teasers that could potentially show up. Also, we'd love to thank you guys for coming out to this event. We appreciate. We're going to upload this to and all corresponding, all following lectures to our YouTube channel, and we're going to keep you guys posted on our Instagram and on our website. We're going to have more events, 2 more events added in the hopefully coming week or 2, maybe 2 weeks. And yeah, we appreciate you guys taking the time. Make sure to tell your friends and everyone to come. We're looking forward to getting right into options. Just needed to give you guys a basic introduction to some of these topics, and we'll start fresh with options coming next class or next seminar. So thank you guys for coming. Here, I'm going to send the A Practical Guide to Quant Finance Interviews is by, here, I'm going to give the author's name as well. And then if you guys want, that's definitely a very useful thing. I potentially can come up with some other resources if anyone would like. Definitely, I think Investopedia is very good for maybe not as much of the extreme quantitative nature of it, but just for maybe a little more of the finance terminology and understanding the concepts. So here. And we look forward to seeing you guys. We got our future events. So quantum computing's coming up. We got Dr. Jones Roy and some other people are going to be, and also our AI, JP Morgan AI VP. And what was the other one? Oh, we're having a person from the Center for Ocean and Center for Ocean and Climate. It was Ocean and
Center for Atmosphere and Ocean Science. Yeah.
Yeah. Ocean Atmosphere. So yeah, we're definitely excited to have everyone come, and we look forward to having you guys and more people come to our future events. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.